The sole purpose of this video is to provide a basic overview and orientation of your new apparatus. This video is not intended to act as or replace individualized driver-operator training. Individual fire departments may base guidelines, policies, and procedures tailored for best practices. Pierce Manufacturing and Hughes Fire Equipment representatives are not liable for injuries caused from acts resulting from actions inconsistent with the information provided within this video and/or accompanying manuals. Refer to the Operation and Maintenance Manual for complete details relating to the components and features of this apparatus. Only trained personnel should operate this vehicle or perform maintenance. You are responsible for learning how to operate this fire apparatus under all conditions without having to refer to the manual while operating at an emergency incident. This video will discuss types of warnings and caution labels. It is your responsibility to locate and identify each of the labels and understand the importance and associated hazards. Warning labels will point out procedure that must be taken or action that must be avoided to guard against the possibility of serious injury or death. Caution labels will advise you that there is a risk of damage to property if certain precautions are not followed. Continuous training, reviewing of operation and service manuals, developing good standardized practices will assist driver operators with a more complete understanding of the components and operation of this fire apparatus. As the driver operator of this vehicle, you are responsible for understanding the function of each component of the apparatus, maintaining control of the fire apparatus at all times while in operation. Make operational and functional changes while operating at an emergency without having to read operator's instructions or safety warning labels. Operate manual override and emergency shutdown procedures immediately if a component fails to operate properly. Components location may vary with each Pierce fire apparatus. Review the exact location of each component prior to operation. Major inconsistencies between your vehicle and the information contained in this video should be directed to your sales representative. Safe operation of any vehicle is the responsibility of the driver operator. You must learn the location and function of all controls, switches, gauges, valves, inlets, and discharges. Due to a higher center of gravity, heavy trucks have a significantly higher rollover tendency than other types of vehicles. To reduce the risk of rollover, avoid making sharp turns, excessive speed, and avoid abrupt maneuvers. In the event of a rollover crash, an unbelted person is significantly more likely to become injured or die than a person wearing a seatbelt. In the event of a crash, unbuckled occupants can also become a hazard to other occupants, as they may be thrown around inside the cab. Seatbelts are required while in operation. Please refer to your warranty certificates for details and information enclosed in your manuals. Customer-installed equipment must be mounted to withstand road travel and comply with NFPA 1901. Modifications such as drilling holes or welding to structural frame components of the chassis are not permitted. Contact Pierce for instruction and review of non-structural sheet metal or other dissimilar metals for modification. Follow the radio installation guide for further assistance on installing or mounting electronics. Before placing your new apparatus into service, perform a primary inspection of key components of the apparatus, including all fluid levels, anti-lock braking systems, electronic stability control, and automatic traction control. Weigh your apparatus to ensure that it conforms to axle and brake ratings. Never exceed the gross axle rating printed on the label inside the cab. Exceeding these ratings could lead to reduced component life, personal injury, or death. Review the use of auxiliary braking systems, compression brake, exhaust brake, electronic retarder, and hydraulic retarder. Before placing the apparatus in service, refer to the operational maintenance manuals. Information on the operation and maintenance functions for the components such as the pump, pressure governor, and foam systems, along with other options, is provided in either the Pierce manuals and/or other manufacturer support information delivered with the apparatus. If you need more information, please contact Hughes Fire Equipment. Congratulations, Central Kitsap, Washington, on your new Pierce fire apparatus, job number 34189. Please utilize this 5-digit job number when referencing your apparatus with Hughes Fire Equipment and Pierce Manufacturing. We'll get started on a brief orientation of your new Pierce fire apparatus. Let's start just under the front bumper. Under the front bumper, you'll find there are 2 perimeter lights downward facing. As we move up onto the bumper face, you'll find dual air horns on the passenger and driver side. Moving just inward of that location on the passenger side, you'll find your mechanical siren. You'll also find 2 closed tow hooks that are attached to the frame rail. And then moving over to the driver's side, you'll find your mechanical siren. Let's move upward onto the cab. Starting on the left and right side, you'll find a clearance marker light. Just inside of that location, in the same bezel, you'll find your turn indicator. You'll also find your headlight structure housing low and high beam headlights. Moving upward onto the passenger side, you'll find a side-facing camera. And then moving inward from this location, you'll find emergency warning lights that are red forward-facing. Let's go ahead and move up to the forward area where you'll find your mirrors. They house a convex and flat mirror. Moving upward from that location to the brow of the apparatus, you'll find 5 clearance lights. Located directly in the center, you'll find a forward-facing fixed floodlight. Moving up onto the roof of the apparatus, you'll find your emergency warning light bar. Contained in that light bar, you'll find in the very center your Opticom device. And then just above that Opticom in the center, slightly behind, is where your go light is located, which is a directional spotlight. Let's take a look at those things in close-up that we just talked about. First, starting with the headlight turn marker indicator, moving up to the brow of the apparatus. And let's go ahead and move now to the driver's area, to the driver's step. Moving inward to the driver's step, you'll find the air inlet. You'll also find the auto charge status center. When plugged into shore power on the right-hand side, your 30 amp shoreline inlet will activate your auto charge status center. Let's go ahead and take a look at the shoreline inlet. This is a 30 amp twist style plug. Let's go ahead and zoom outward from this location. You'll find just above that location is where the extra door is located in between the front and rear door. Inside, dry deck material, adjustable shelving, LED lighting, and an additional shoreline outlet. As we move all the way back out, you'll find grab handles for points of entry for personnel, in addition with latches which are keyed. And then as we move from this location, let's move all the way to the upper portion where you'll find a side-facing scene light. As we move further to the back section of the cab, you'll find a tank indicator. This is indicating the amount of water in your water tank. And then just downward, we'll find a side-facing emergency warning light. Let's move now to the cutout section, or the notch, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the items in this area. First, starting in the upper left, this is your 2.5-inch discharge. We have a warning label here regarding pressurized hazard. Caps may be under pressure. Be cautious when opening them. As we move further to the right, you'll find a fall injury warning here, and you'll also find your draft foam fill location. Just beneath that, you'll find a warning label also indicating that do not mix different brands or consistencies of foam, that you may have foam failure. Located in the center behind the Pierce logo, American flag eagle, is your large diameter pump intake. As we move down to the right lower section, you'll find your 2.5-inch female inlet. Across the bottom, you'll find all of your color-coded discharge drains. Let's take a look at some close-ups of the items that we just talked about. First, starting with the number 1 driver's side, 2.5-inch discharge. Moving now to the right-hand side, you'll find your foam draft tank fill location. And then as we move just downward, we'll find the driver's side auxiliary inlet, once again a female inlet. And as we move to the far left, you'll find your air supply, air outlet, and then all of your color-coded discharge drains. Let's move upward to the upwardmost portion of the notch area where you'll find your crosslay or speedlay
There is a warning label here. Because of those hoses, there is the possibility for entanglement. As we move across from the right side, you'll find the 2 locations for those speed loads. Directly in the center, you'll find this release mechanism, which allows you to release those speed loads so that the tray can be actually removed. Up in the upper portion of the notch, you'll find backboard storage, long-handled tool storage, and additional long-handled storage on the right-hand side. Let's take a look at the rear section of the body. Starting first underneath, you'll find a wheel chock located just in front of and also one into the rear of the rear axle. Those are folding wheel chocks. You'll also find 2 pan doors located in this area in front and to the rear of the door for SCBA bottle storage. We have your department logo, Central Kitsap Fire and Rescue. And then we also have a booster line located just over the pump panel area. Let's start with the pump panel. We'll identify the items within this area. First, starting at the very top, if your pump is properly engaged, you'll get an OK to pump and the indicator light will become illuminated. We'll move to the engine information. It's the gray area on the left. First, starting with the oil in the upper left corner. As we move downward to the volts, back up to the right, you'll find your water temperature and then also a fuel gauge in the lower right-hand corner. Directly in the center, you'll find your tachometer. We do have some tally lights here. At the very top, we'll find a check transmission, which will be illuminating in yellow if illuminated. You'll also find a check engine in yellow and also low fuel. As we move now to the left-hand side of the engine information, you'll find a red stop engine information. Those will be red in color. They'll consist of stop engine, battery, and also oil pressure. You also will have water temp. Let's move now to the right-hand side to the large gauges. These are your master intake gauges and master discharge gauges. On the left is your intake gauge and on the right is your discharge. In between the two of those are the test gauge ports for vacuum and pressure. As we move all the way to the very far right-hand side in this image, you'll find the PCM fault. There is an amber indicator and also an audible alarm. The audible alarm around the outer edge of that bezel does allow you to dampen the sound by simply twisting. We do have clearly color-coded and labeled discharges. You'll find the real discharge, driver's side, and also passenger side discharges here. In the center, you'll find your primer for your fire pump with some instructions below for 1,000 minimum best practices for priming. You'll also find your Pierce pressure throttle governor, which we'll go over next. Let's first start in the upper left-hand corner. This is the pressure throttle governor. If illuminating, the check engine light would be yellow. In between, you'll find your RPMs, which is a digital readout. On the far right, you'll find your stop engine, which will be red in color. Just beneath that, you'll find all of your engine diagnostic information will illuminate below that, in addition with your pump temperature on the far right-hand side. As we move down, we do have an additional water gauge level indicator located in blue, a silence in red, and a menu button in orange, which allows you to scroll through the various menu functions of your pressure throttle governor. You have 2 options for this pressure throttle governor. You have pressure control mode or throttle control mode. Those are your 2 modes. To get to those, you'll use the blue button for control mode. We also have a throttle ready indicator located between the control mode and the preset button. To the far right, you'll find a green indicator, which allows you to press that and move through different presets within your pressure throttle governor. As we move down to the very bottom, you'll find the throttle, right to increase the throttle, left to decrease the throttle, push in the center for idle. Let's move downward on the pump panel. We'll start first in the left-hand side with your minimum operation maintenance schedule. We'll come back to that in a moment. We also have the red module, which is your Husky foam system module. We'll come back to that also in just a moment. To the right, you'll find a foam level indicator. Further to the right, you'll find a recirculating line. This is a twist, not a pull. And then to the far right, you'll find your deluge discharge. As we move further down to the left-hand side, you'll find your tank fill and also your tank to pump. They're the 2 valves on the left-hand side. We have a warning label here that only trained personnel should operate this piece of equipment only after they've received proper training. This vehicle is equipped also with 2 electronic valves. They're the number 2 passenger side discharge and also the large diameter passenger side discharge. Moving to the right, you'll find your Husky 3 foam system specifications and also instructions. Let's go back to the minimum operation maintenance schedule for 150, 200, and 250 psi. On the left, you'll find the associated GPMs at test pressure, and on the right, you'll find the associated RPMs at test pressure. It also houses the job number 34189. Let's move to the right where the Husky foam system. You have your operating instructions clearly on the module itself, system on and off, a digital readout for the foam percentage, increase or decrease, which are the gray buttons, and we have a yellowish orange button, which is the prime button. The system status light is also indicating on number 4, which is the system status lights, and it will provide you the information as to the module's functions. To the right, you'll find your foam level indicator. Across the very bottom, we have all of your discharge drains, color-coded and labeled. We do have a pan door here. When we look behind inside the pump panel area, you'll find your foam fill operations, and there is a yellow handle that matches the instructions on the panel door. We also have your manual shift override. It's a protected switch with a yellow indicator light. Let's go ahead and take a look closer inside. This again is the manual pump shift override, protected, and also an amber indicator. On the far left-hand side of the pump panel, you'll find your reel rewind. And then as we look now to the rear section of the apparatus toward the rear compartment, we're going to find your Wilbert control for your light mast. There is a start button. You can see the functions down below, and also an emergency stop button in the upper right-hand corner, which is red. On the very top of the device, it does have some information on the mast and as to how high it is. The light tower height, 23 feet, 11 inches. Let's take a look in the same compartment. You'll find at the very top, this is your auto charge system. When plugged into shore power, that outlet will be activated, along with a ventilation system. That's what this is. This is the timer for your fresh air ventilation. Moving now just into the front section of the rear axle, you'll find SCBA bottle storage with retaining straps, a 4.5 DEF fill location, which is your blue capped inlet. As we look over the rear axle, you'll find tool storage location. D handle opens the tool storage, and then in the very back section here, you'll find the lock release mechanism in the upper right-hand corner of the hinge. As we move to the rear of the axle, you'll find bottle storage location, retaining straps, and also your ultra low sulfur diesel fill location. We're to the rear compartment now, where we have pull-out tray at the very bottom section. That's the release mechanism. And as we go to the rear section of your apparatus, you'll find perimeter lighting on the right and left, and then also a tow hitch located in the very center. Moving up from this location, we do have some warning labels. Fall injury warning label, and also fall hazard, not riding on the rear of the apparatus while it's in motion. Also a pressure warning hazard, that caps may be under pressure, and then also an entanglement hazard warning label here, that because of those hoses, there's the possibility of entanglement. We do have 2 discharges back here. There is the left and right. They're both 2.5-inch discharges. As we move downward from that location, you'll find the traffic advisor, and then also a D-handled compartment at the very base of the traffic advisor. Let's take a look at the left-hand side of this image here, where we'll find the switch for the work light. This is near the tail lights. As we move upward into the compartmented space, you'll find your hose bed with hose bed dividers. As we look to the very far right-hand side in this image, we're going to find your hose bed cover, and then also all of your ladders. We'll go over those next. You have a 24-foot extension ladder, a 14-foot roof ladder, and then just up from this compartment at the top, you'll find a 10-foot folding attic ladder. Also, long tool storage handles will belong in that area. Starting with the turn indicator, we have a stop, brake, turn, and also reverse lights. There are steps for going aloft. They are fold down. There are 4 on the left-hand side. As we move also to the very top, you'll find your backup camera nestled in just above that one step. Let's move now to the dunnage of the apparatus. This is on the very top of your apparatus, where your water tank and foam storage for your foam system is. This is your water fill location for top fill access. As we move just to the right, you'll find the foam fill for foam tank A. We do have a warning label here, once again, about foam failure and mixing different brands or consistencies. You have a fully encompassed hose bed. The yellow diamonds are the indications for the walking surface for firefighter safety. In the dunnage, you'll find your booster line. You'll also find your master stream device, and also control for the master stream device on/off. And then to the right, you'll find the Husky Foam System 3 hydraulic system. Let's go back and take a look at some of those items. First, starting with the Husky Foam System, there is a fill location on the left-hand side. Difficult to see in this image, so you can see it here. The black cap is where you would fill for your hydraulic foam oil reservoir. As we move now to the booster line, you'll find at the very top left-hand side, this is the manual rewind location. And then we also have a tensioning screw, which allows you to tension the amount or free spool for your booster line. Once again, this is a non-walking surface. We do have some warnings up here. This is the night scan. This is your light tower. You can see the do not walk in this area, or at least use caution when operating in this area. You'll also find your air conditioning unit located on the very front section of your cab, along with your emergency warning lights. Let's go ahead and get down from the top of the truck. We'll move around to the side of the vehicle, starting with your ventilation system. You'll see this piping throughout all of your compartments. This allows the fresh air to move through your system. On the far right lower section, you'll find a pull-out tray release mechanism on the right. Just underneath that location, you'll also find the passenger rear discharge drain. And then as we move further back, you'll find the driver's rear discharge drain. Along in the upper right-hand corner, you can see the perimeter lighting. To the rear of the axle, you'll find 3 SCBA bottle storage locations with retaining straps. As we move to the compartment itself, you'll find a tool board on the back wall, in addition with ventilation system in the upper portion. As we move to the front axle area, you'll find 2 SCBA bottle storage locations, in addition with an oxygen storage location. I would like to point out this warning label, extremely hot diesel exhaust temperatures. Be careful when you park your vehicle. In this compartment, we also have a pull-out tray. On the right-hand side is the release mechanism for that. In this same compartment is where you'll find the S1 breaker panel. This is when plugged into shore power, this breaker panel will be active. We do also have a warning regarding electrocution. Let's go ahead and move just downward from this location. This is the cab lift location. There is some warning and danger information here regarding tilting your cab. As we move to the notch of the apparatus, we'll start with some warning labels. First, do not ride on the rear or side of your apparatus, and then also a pressure warning hazard. This is your large diameter pump intake. It's the Pierce American Flag Eagle for your passenger side. As we move to the right, you'll find the warning label here regarding pressure hazard. This is the automatic valves that you have. It's the 2.5 inch, and there's an override just down in the lower section. Same thing with the electric valve for your large diameter passenger side discharge. The override is down in the lower section. This is also a 2.5 inch auxiliary inlet. This is the passenger side female, and at the very bottom you'll find all your color coded and labeled discharge drains. Here's some close-ups of those items that we just talked about. First, the passenger side auxiliary inlet. Now you'll find your discharge drains and also the override that I referred to earlier. Moving up to the number 2 passenger side, in addition with the override on the lower left-hand side. We'll move from this location and move to the portion above the notch. We'll talk a little bit about those things next. Here's a few images of the side with the compartment doors closed. Now we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about those items with the notch. Same layout as the driver's side. We have your 2 pre-connected hose, release mechanism for the tray, and then also the warning label regarding entanglement. As we move to the cab, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the items within the passenger side of the cab. Here's a quick look at the passenger side of the cab and also the air inlet. At the very top, you'll find above the American flag side-facing scene light. As we move to the rear section, inside, you'll find affixed to the door panels all of your warning labels for firefighter safety. We do have some light boxes located underneath the forward-facing seats on the passenger and driver side, and also your headset system located at the very top section. In between the 2 fold-down seats in the rear, you'll find sufficient storage inside the compartment with a quick release mechanism. We're to the exterior of the cab, which I should have covered this earlier. That is the release mechanism for your door locks. We're now moving to the front section of your cab. This is the officer area. Once again, affixed to the door panel, safety and warning labels. Your vehicle is equipped with a supplemental restraint system, an airbag, and you shouldn't mount anything within this vicinity. On the right, you'll find your fill location for your windshield wiper fluid. On the floor, you'll find your air horn and also mechanical siren. Let's look overhead in the officer's area, and in the driver's area, you'll find push on and off lenses, either red or white. Whichever you push will dictate the color that you get turned on. In the center, you'll find a do not move your apparatus. You have a compartment or door ajar. In the very far right, we're going to find your go light control. Underneath, you'll find your Firecom wireless system and then also the Firecom system itself module. Let's move slightly to the left from this location and upward where we'll find the Firecom module. Moving once again to the left, you'll find these switches, which is the emergency master, driver side scene, front scene, passenger side scene, and the red switch here is a siren brake for your mechanical siren. Moving just to the left, you'll find your unit radio, AM, FM, XM, and also CD player weather band radio. To the left, you'll find 12-volt barrel style and also USB style 12-volt access. There's also a digital readout for the speedometer located for the officer's position, and then in the very front you'll find your vehicle data recorder port. Let's take a look from the driver's area. That's where we'll go to next. And you can see in the center column you'll find once again a 12-volt access. You'll also find climate control for defrost, heat, and air conditioning, and then just beneath that you'll find your EQ2B control module. Just a general view at the top section here, you can see the two fans located on the passenger and driver side in the center area. We're now to the driver's space. We'll talk a little bit about the items in this area, first starting with the door panel and warning labels. You'll also find your door locks and also window control. As we move inside the cab, let's start down at the floorboard area, where we'll start with a foot pedal. This is going to be for your air horn and also electronic siren. Moving just up from that location on the left knee of the operator, you'll find your master battery switch. This is the red switch at the top. You'll also find some additional switches here and ports, your engine, transmission, ABS diagnostic port in green, and also display and tech module displays. On the left, you'll find regen inhibit, ABS diagnostics, DPF regen, and engine diagnostic indicators. As we move upward from this location, you'll find your power window controls for passenger and driver side. You'll also find your electronic siren, air horn, and a siren brake. Down about the right ankle of the operator, you'll find this yellow placard, which is your placard manufactured from Pierce for your department. It has the date of manufacture, job number, gross vehicle weight ratings, cold tire inflation, your VIN number, components, fluid capacities, and fluid types. As we move up to the dash area on the left-hand side A pillar, you'll find your ignition, start, and hazard lights. Just inside of that location, you'll find your EM switch, which stands for Emergency Master, headlights, and then a panel switch, which allows you to brighten or dim the panel lights within the driver's preview. Moving just to the opposite side of the steering column, you'll find your OK to engage your high idle switch and indicator. Starting on the left, you have your transmission oil DEF level and water temperature. On the right, you'll find your volts, front and rear air, fuel. In between the two of those, you'll find your tachometer and speedometer with diagnostic information displaying above and below the speedometer. As we move to the far left-hand side over the operator's head, you'll find the go light control. This is for the light over the light bar. You'll also find this placard, your height 9 feet 10.5 inches, length 31 feet 2 inches, gross vehicle weight rating 46,800 pounds. If you make any changes to your vehicle, please update this placard. Let's move just to the right. We'll assign a few memory switches. First, you'll find Emergency Master, Roof Light, Front Warning, and Side Warning. In the next section down, you'll find the Lower Rear Warning, Upper Rear Warning, High Beam Flash, and your Opticom switch. When any of these switches have been activated, the outer edge will illuminate, indicating that it's on. Moving to the right, you'll find your driver's side scene, front scene, passenger side scene, and rear scene. The next section down will find your front white flash, perimeter lighting, a future switch location if necessary, and your load manager. Moving further to the right, this is your traffic advisor, which is the function in the very rear of your apparatus. And then as we move further to the right, you'll find a pump pressure, which is a digital readout, and then also a water tank level indicator. Moving to the right on the dash, you'll find your pull to apply your system parking brake. It is the yellow brake. Moving to the right, you'll find the Pierce Command Zone, a tremendous amount of information. Right here, your fingertips, see your owner's manual for more information. Just beneath that, you'll find your Allison transmission pad. It is a push-button transmission pad with a digital readout in the upper portion. Moving slightly to the right and just upward, you'll find the stationary OK to pump and roll. This is an indicator light with the water pump switch next to it and also the foam system switch. As we move down, we'll find an indication here to pump in neutral. We have the engine brake on and off settings switch for low, medium, and high, off-road traction, and mirror heat switch. Let's move just to the right. On the angle is where you're going to find your flat and convex mirror controls. As we look overhead, this is another indication of your do not move your apparatus. You may have a compartment or door open if that light is flashing. Just a quick look into the rear of the apparatus. You can see the two compartments in the forward position. In between, you'll find your access panel for your daily checks for oil and transmission. Congratulations, Central Kitsap, Washington, on your new Pierce fire apparatus, job number 34189. If you have any questions about your apparatus, please contact your Hughes Fire sales representative. Thank you and congratulations.